holidaysnale adu namma GT Holidays da, South India's #1 travel brand.
Embrace the new era of learning 5D.
Visit India's first underwater tunnel aquarium at BGP Marine Kingdom, Chennai.
Even though I'm saying it myself, and you can hold me to this even after release, the film looks like we shot it last week.
Hello Gautham, welcome to Galata Plus.
Thank you, Baradwaj.
Nice to interview you for the very first time.
I'm sure people are fed up already.
But Gautham, this movie that's coming up, Dhruvanatchathiram, it's very unique amongst your movies in that it's caused more news before the release than after. Would you agree with that?
You mean it's been in the news for the wrong reasons?
Isn't that what it is? Because I'll tell you, just like you were discussing before we were just talking just before this. Usually by now, if a movie is releasing at a particular date, you were just saying that you'd actually be doing a promotional kind of overdrive to kind of get the film to which all the people concerned. But that doesn't seem to be happening here. So let's talk the good, the bad, the ugly. What's the good? What's the bad? What's the ugly?
All three are me. Good, bad and ugly.
Okay.
I'm responsible for why we're talking about this particular topic, so to speak. What I meant was by now, if 24th was released, I'd be working on post and there'll be some, a sound mix that's going on. Right. There'll be like a checking of all the CG shots and everything, because eventually it goes down to the 24th release. By 21st release, we'll be able to send prints out itself, which is how we've worked on the earlier films. But this time the film is ready, censored and locked, the copy is ready, and all the technical work on the film is done for more than a month. I've only been trying to figure out the release of the film. Like, there are a lot of issues, and which is why the film was also sort of not put on the back burner, but almost shelved for almost 2-3 years. And then I picked up the film again, and I completed the film. I shot whatever needed to be shot, and then we dubbed and we edited. And the good is, even though I'm saying it myself, and you can hold me to this even after release, the film looks like we shot it last week. Not in just terms of the aesthetic values of the film, but purely in terms of content. And we picked this up in 2017, so even as a concept, it's not dated.
Right.
And frames wise, visuals wise, it looks like we just finished filming last week. Technically, it's very sound. It's brilliant, if you ask me. I've had the fortune of working with Manoj and Kadir, and recently we shot with Vishnu also, somebody new. And the film is in one look.
These are your cinematographers.
Yeah. There's no continuity issues. It's not a jumpy edit. I had started off with an idea of making a series of films on these characters.
Right.
I pitched it to Surya like that. Surya didn't do the film. I pitched it to Vikram sir also, similarly. I said this film can go on to be a series of films. This protagonist and the team with him can be in a series of films. And this particular film that we're talking about has a lot of these sort of loose ends that I don't tie up at the end of part one. Like at the end of the film, there's a major twist also, which we've managed to do. And there is a woman in the film, like his love interest, so to speak. But beyond 15 minutes, we don't know what happens to her. And it'll also make the audience think and wonder, and also realize that, yes, there is more to come.
Right.
So those are the good things about the film. The bad is, I don't know, we started off with a few people on board, and then somewhere, visions didn't match, or they were not interested, or they didn't know how to take it forward at some point. I know that there was a plan.
Behind the scenes?
This is
Behind the scenes?
Yeah.
That is like not production-wise.
Yeah, when you put together a film, right? There was a script. We knew what we were doing. It was ambitious. It was a big film. We had to shoot itself in like some 6 to 7 locations outside India and all that. And because the script also demanded that, there was a plan that was made. But it's just that at some point I realized that, the plan was not in place also because money was borrowed left, right and center. It wasn't structured and stuff, right? And then at some point I had to take over. I started acting, which we've discussed before. I started acting only to put back money into this film. And I put a really huge number to finish the film. I could have just left it lie there and moved on. But I don't do that, not just because there's a special film, but also it is a film of mine. And if it is any film of mine, I would have done that.
Yeah.
I wanted to see this, complete, and I want to take it to many other films also. And also everywhere I go, like if I narrate to a star, any story or discuss the idea of a film also, the first thing that comes from them is Dhruvanatchathiram, Prachanella Mudinjicha, Padam release avuma, Padam mudichittu vaanga. Like finish the film and come. And I've faced this with even 3-4 big actors, stars, so to speak. So I also decided that I need to somehow, get this film to a completion, and aesthetically also, not just put together with what, I have. So the visions didn't match, I guess, and the ideology didn't, match, and people didn't have the wherewithal to take it forward. So I had to step in and take it forward, and I managed to bring it to a completion, which is also the good side of it.
Just to interrupt, when you say vision didn't match, what is this vision you're talking about? As in, the way you saw the film was not the way they saw the film.
Yeah, I
Okay.
saw the film a little differently initially.
Right.
But I went with the production plan of this is how we should, and this is where we should shoot it and all that stuff.
Okay.
So I fell in line. I fell in, and I can do that. So I changed the concept idea itself, and I shot it somewhere else, and I worked around that. But after that, when I meant really vision, it's just that to complete, to take it forward, to meet people, to figure out how to finish a film. That was not there, right? So I had to take that up on myself, and I'm not even getting calls from people who were there initially asking me how is it going and stuff. I'm fighting this battle completely myself. But then I'm thinking I'm only responsible for it, because if I had gotten into it on day one and figured it out and made sure the funds were structured and made sure there was planning as far as the production went, which I didn't want to do any time with any film of mine, right? I have a team. I completely believe in the team, and I'd like to take it forward. But this is a lesson, and I guess, next time around, I'll have to do that myself.
Do you kind of have any regrets about not doing this before, like earlier, taking it on yourself?
No regrets as such. Just that when I meet some tough people who really want their money back, and that's only fair that they get their money back, with exorbitant interest, rates also being thrown in. That's the time I kind of think, I should have handled this better. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Gautam, you said that some things happened and then the film got shelved for 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is. What happened?
That's the ugly part of the whole story.
Okay.
I guess, when you're producing a film, if your funds are structured, if you know there is one investor who will be probably the principal negative holder, and you raise money only from him, and you put that money into a sort of a production plan, then things go really smooth. And it's not, you see, it is a big film. It'll look very expensive. We've shot across many locations.
The trailer looks big. Yeah.
But I know I haven't like really spent the kind of amounts that you might really associate with a film like that, because I shoot like that. I think I shoot like that. It's not too much of expense, but it'll look big in that sense. And I think I've managed to do that. It's just that when communication goes wrong between investors, you pit two investors against each other, and then when one investor realizes that there's somebody else on board, when he's kept on telling us not to take money from the other person, and then it's not mentioned to him, and likewise the same thing is done with the other investor, and then when these two people are pitted against each other, and then they file stays in court on the film, and everything gets shelved, including freezing bank accounts and trying to attach property and stuff like that. Everything gets like stalled, right? Immediately, it's a full stop there, right? It's a red light that goes off, and you can't do anything beyond that. And then you have to go meet them, convince them that your intention is good, you want to put the film out, bring them out of court, and then I had to act and raise this money and then put back money into the film. And now with the revenues that come from the film, which I don't know, the film has to work for that, I have to pay these guys back. So it's just, and all technicians who worked on the film and everybody are being paid, and everybody's been paid off and all that stuff, which is only fair. And only the principal big 4-5 investors have to be paid off now. All those court issues are out of court, and I'm trying to see if we can pay them off over the next 3-4 days and release the film also from the sales of the from the proceeds of the film that will come before release.
Right. But
The problem is with digital, people think it's an old film, it's a dated film, right? So the OTT digital sale doesn't happen easily. So we have to show them the film. A normal practice is you show them half an hour of the film, they look at the combination, they look at the value which is there, I don't even know how that exists, and they come on board. But here you have to pitch, you have to show, you have to like spend a lot of time and try to get them on board, convince them that the film doesn't look dated or it's not an old film, convince them there are no legal issues anymore, it's not mired in legal issues anymore, and then bring them on board. So all this takes time. It actually has taken me a year to
Right.
convince them.
Now, Gautham, with all this, why did you announce a release date?
So the momentum started only after I announced the release date. And I wasn't doing that. When I went and met these guys and asked them, sir, there's no need for any more hearings in court. I'm there. I'm the one who's going to pay you. So bring it out of court. If you bring it out, and they've sent legal notices to all the OTT platforms and corporates and everything. So nobody was picking up the film. So I said, come out of court. Then they said, but you're not releasing the film. The film is not complete. Film is complete. I am putting a date out. And I put this date out and I worked towards this date almost from like 6 to 8 months ago.
Right.
But officially when I put the date out only, I started getting calls again. So it's like it's like a vicious cycle or like a catch-22
Right. So if you
situation.
did not put the date out,
There was no movement
there
at
was no
all.
momentum.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now that you have a date,
I'm nearing the date and I'm waiting for these liabilities and issues to get sorted out.
right. So with all this on your head, how are you even giving an interview?
Actually, I don't want to talk about the film at all because I feel I'm responsible completely for this mess and everything. And there's no joy and pride right now. Normally, you own a film, you love it and all that. I like what I've made. The film looks really aesthetic. It's a proper 2-hour, 20-minute film. I'm crazy about length also, which is a great length that I managed to achieve. Background score is tremendous. There's like great music in the film, and the film looks good. Vikram is there, and in all his splendor, he looks nice. And
Actually, from the trailer, I haven't seen him look as stylish in a long time.
yeah,
It's
so
just
all that
like,
is
yeah,
there.
yeah,
All
yeah.
that is there, and it's within what I've done. I think and I have to use the word. It is very different because, like I said, I'm hoping I've got the audience thinking as to, oh, what happened there? Oh, okay, maybe it comes later. Oh, what happened here? Maybe it comes later, sort of thing. So I've done that. Even Harris, when he started scoring for the film, he said, I think this is very. How did you come up with this idea? It's very different from what you've done. It's your most commercial film, he said. Right? So all that is there. But then I'm not feeling that because I'm completely down with sorting out. And that is my fault. And I can't even blame anybody because people have to be paid off, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Investors who invested money in the film are all waiting to be paid off. Yes, I have to give it to them that they've been really patient. There is some pressure, yes, right now, because the date is out, it's nearing, and they're wondering, I pulled them out of court and they're wondering, how come I've not paid them as yet? Should we go back to court is what they're asking me. So I'm facing that, I'm holding them, calls and back and forth is happening right now. So that has taken over everything else right now. Suddenly we decided this also has to happen. We have to talk about the film. Not talk about the issues per se, but probably talk about the film. But since it's you, I'm saying it's okay. I don't mind, since you asked me. Otherwise, I would have ideally said, no, let's just get into the, the promotional parts of the discussion of the filmmaking.
No,
sort of
I'm
thing.
also asking because it's better to hear this from you rather than have some other versions keep coming up wherever. So that way you're clearing the air about
Yeah.
what's the ugly part of the film, right? So now let's talk about the good. When did this idea of making this kind of this group of agents movie originate?
I read an article about the 2008 Mumbai attacks, the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, and there was this article about, was it intelligence failure or, or was it we knew about it but we didn't act on it, and there were a couple of inroads, but then we couldn't really, point it down to yes, there is a bunch of people who are coming in from, Pakistan into our waters, and then they'll enter Mumbai. And then there was another article which talked about the first NSG chopper that actually, brought about those commandos into the Taj. That those choppers came in only after almost 18 hours once the siege started, right? And that could have been red tape and bureaucracy and, a whole lot of permissions. And why was it so late, So there's somebody who's affected by that. He's in a position where he feels his hands are tied. He could have done something about this. He has so much of data about this. And he also talks about this, these choppers with these commandos landing really late, And I'm being very respectful about this. I'm not trying to say, I know something that nobody else knows or anything like that. But this sets off an idea. It set off an idea in me also. Where what if somebody decides I'm going to have my own team, a covert team that will exist, that will also be working alongside or parallel to the already existing research and analysis wing and IB. They will gather intelligence and information, but they'll also be commandos, and they will report to this one older man.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a covert team, and nobody knows of their existence. They all have different identities and stuff. And this is led by, within that 11 or 12 that he wants to set up, one guy who's a specialist.
Yeah.
That's all this idea was. And this is how much I told Surya also. He just felt, there's no reference, or will something like this exist? Since you're making it, people will really question the authenticity, and it has to be realistic. I said, we'll make a realistic film. I'm not going to make a loud action film. I don't shoot action where cars are, blowing up and they're being tossed over, and we'll make it as realistic as possible, but within that it'll be a commercial film. But somewhere it didn't fall in place. And then a couple of years later, when I happened to casually talk to Vikram sir about something, I narrated this idea and he grabbed it. He said, let's do it, he said. What I've not done from what I narrated to Vikram was this emotional flashback, or this emotional...
You mean what you narrated to Surya?
Yeah, from what I narrated to Surya and from the original script. I didn't shoot that. So there is a scene where this old man sits and he talks to one of the team members, and he says, I'm planning to set up this team and this is what I want. And so this guy asks him, so you'll work against the law? I mean, like vigilantes, like spies? He says, yeah. I mean, we, ஒரு 100 பேருக்கு நல்லது பண்ணணும்னா எதுவும் தப்பு இல்லை, he says. And I added that line also. And then he says, yeah, like spies, like vigilantes. And I'm looking for a team. I'm looking for specialists. I'm looking for people with regrets. I'm looking for people who have something that they're affected by, and they will only work, well within this team, he says.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
And he goes around looking for such people. So there was an emotional flashback or a backstory for the hero. But as I finished, and then I could have gone ahead and shot it, I just realized there's no need, because that's what we always do with all our films. And since if the audience, while they come out from the theatre, like this film, then they're looking forward to part 2, in which there will be a who is this guy. So in this film, I've picked up the action right in the middle of 15 years of this team's work. It's the 15th year since 2008 this team has been set up, 2023, because we're in 2023. At the end of in the middle of the 15th year, there is something that happens to the team and how they get together. Where these guys are from, who are they, all that I'm going to say in my next story.
Right, but there's also something nice about these men of mystery, right?
Yeah.
Like you really don't know why they get together and all. We've seen films like that. But I'm curious about one thing. By the time you narrated it to Surya first, right? That's what happened.
Yeah.
There was already like these movies like the Mission Impossible films and all, right? It was there. So there was a kind of a reference, right? It was not a completely out there thing. But I mean, what was different is you're setting it in a very real kind of a thing. So what was the issue that I'm not able to understand?
I'm still not able to understand that, actually.
Okay.
He did ask me what the reference points are. See, I don't want to also sound like I'm cribbing or I'm...
Sure. I mean, I'm just curious
it shouldn't come across like that.
Yeah.
We have a good relationship and all that, it's a good equation between us. But I couldn't understand. I said there's no need for any reference points. This was my argument, actually, and it was an argument. There's no need. I'm trying to figure out something myself, and all my films are made like that. I gave you a complete scene-by-scene idea of Varanamayiram, and that's what I'm giving you. This is where I'm going, but I'll also find the film with you, and I found every film like that. I never go into shoot without a script or a scene or, dialogues in my head or on paper or on a laptop. I have all that. And the actors take it. There's no surprises, right?
Yeah.
But we find that day. In that day, we find that space. Yeah. Finally, when we come to the edit table, I pick the second take or the fourth take. That's already done on location, right? So you built a film around what the actor's done for you. I wanted that swag from Surya. I wanted a certain way as to how he will make the audience believe that he could be one of these 11, right? The identity that he puts himself out to the rest of the world is he runs a school. He teaches English and Tamil in that school. But he reports to one man and he travels all over the world. They'll also do missions for money because the team has to exist and function also, right? So they do missions like that also, and all these missions in some way or the other protect the country. So I said, when you play it, I want the audience to just believe that you are capable of, being this person. And I wanted Amitabh Bachchan actually for the Mr. K, who's played this person who puts together this team. And I did go and try and meet and all that. But the script had a lot of movement, a lot of action. And the response I got was, too much of action is not possible. But of course, later I cast a much older person, the brilliant dancer Dhananjayan sir played that role. right? And so because of his age and everything, we toned down a lot of the thing. But there's one stature about him, which we like. So there was a lot of thought, and I wanted to find the film, but somewhere he didn't get that. I think he wanted a full bound writing, really in place to show that we know what we're doing.
Right.
With Vikram sir, I gave him a lot of this, and he said, okay, I'll pick this. Let's do this. He picked a producer also, and said, let's take this film forward.
Right.
The only thing from what I narrated to him that I didn't shoot is this emotional flashback that draws him into this team and how they pick him and all that. And I've left a lot of loose ends in the film, which I hope people will get, that they're all meant for a series of films that will come later. He did promise, or he did say that if the film does really well, I'll do part 2.
Right. Nice. When you have a film like this, there's a question that's bound to crop up because you once wanted to do a film called Johan, which was also a kind of a spy action kind of a thing. Are there any ideas from that in here?
No, not exactly. No, not at all. So Johan is more like a born kind of a film.
Right.
Right? There's no team as such.
Right.
It's somebody who functions on his own. There is a need for him to be in that space. And he goes after an arms dealer. It's just one man against an arms dealer who's responsible for a lot of destruction across the world. And it's one man's. Vijay at that point just felt that it's too much of an English film.
Right.
The heroine was English speaking, and the whole film was set in the US. In the Tamil Padam illa is what he told me. And I said, let's try something. So this doesn't have that. This is a film that's set here. It's about people from here who work to help protect the country in some way or the other.
Right.
And something happens to one of them, and how the team groups to figure that out. But from this, a larger issue arises, and that is my part 2.
Right. So, did you have to do any changes from what you'd shot earlier in order to complete the film that we are going to see now?
No, nothing at all. It was based on the script. The only thing is, Vinayagan is the antagonist, so to speak. He's the villain in the film. And we shot all his portions between 2017 and 19. The film was all done. And then I wanted an introduction to why this guy is in the fray now. Why is he coming, right? There's a reason for Vinayagan also to be in the film, the character that he plays. He just didn't respond to my calls. And that's the time he was actually finishing or like doing Jailer. So I got word from his team that focuses on Jailer right now. He wants to finish Jailer, and once the film releases only, he will come on to this film, if at all there's any work. Even dubbing, he didn't. So I got a little worried because I was a little thing about my film and Vinayagan and my film and all that. In fact, initially I thought if Jailer comes out and then people might not be really attracted by the panache and the swag that Vinayagan displays in my film, right? But on the contrary, everything has one meaning to it, I feel. Jailer has come out, and now the calls I'm getting is Vinayagan there in the film? Is he there like full length? Okay, then we are interested in the film also, apart from Vikram being there. So it's worked out well.
It's become an added attraction.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't see Vinayagan like how they saw him in Jailer. In my film, he's like one sophisticated, sort of a suave, full of swag kind of a guy, right? And pitted against Vikram, who's also in that similar space. But you can clearly make out Vikram was also local. Vinayagan is also local in that way, within their, existing scenario, so to speak. So things are working out in that sense, and I'm hoping, people will see that. So when Vinayagan didn't respond to my calls for 3 months, I was like, what do I do now? And I had to finish the film, and I had put together some money from the acting and all that stuff. And I had also working towards this release date, right? Because there were investors who were also asking me to sort of, move them out, paying them off and all that. So I just decided I'll act in that, I'll create a new character. And it's me who sort of sets up the villain sort of a thing.
Right.
So I created these 2 new characters. And throughout this film, you won't know who I am. There's no name attached to us.
The person who talks about cricket terms.
You don't know who he is.
Okay.
You don't know who he is. He comes in the film. He comes at the end of the film also. And I'm hoping if this film does well, or even if it doesn't do well, I'm going to pick up part 2 and do it for sure.
Right. But Gautham, when something like, this happens, which is, you're saying it's all me, but it's also there are some circumstances that happen beyond your control, right? How do you handle the thing? Because as a director, you want your focus to be entirely on the creative aspect of the film, the writing, the production, the making, the handling the actors, that kind of stuff. And then you get stuck in all these these financial things. I mean, how are you able to balance this in your head?
I don't do a good job of it. Honestly, Paddy, sometimes when I look at my kids, I feel like a loser because the focus should be on, um, you know, the creative aspects, the aesthetic aspects of a film. A film that comes from me should be talked about for the film,
Right.
and not about the issues that the film is mired in, right? And that word is out everywhere. Like sometimes when my older fellow asks me, "Appa, will the film release?" and he means it in a good way because he's keen to see the film, and I am very, very clear about showing films at home. I don't show them on the TV or on the laptop. Come to the theater and watch the first final cut just before release one day and on the day of release. And I've done that with my wife and my mother and all that. Nothing they'll see at home unless there's a trailer on YouTube or something like that. And everybody's brought to the theater to watch the film. So when he asked me, I know he's concerned because there is word amongst his friends also that there are a lot of issues. If you open the newspaper, sometimes there's an article and stuff.
Yeah.
I myself have been vocal about it, right? So that's not what he should know me for, ideally. So it's not easy, and it affects my writing to a large extent because I'm not able to move on at all. And thankfully, I'm working with Aishri Ganesh sir, Wales Productions, I have to do one more film for them. And for the past 3 months, he's not even called me because he knows. He called me to wish me for Deepavali yesterday, and he said, "Sir, I'm not disturbing you because I know you're working completely to release this film. Once you finish, we will meet, we'll regroup, and figure out what we're doing next." So I have people like that also who are, sort of understanding and considerate. Otherwise, nobody else need be in that space, right? I have committed to a project.
Yeah.
I should have started that. But in terms of being creative, absolutely nothing.
That part of your brain
not
is
even able
just-
to complete a page, right? And I feel like a loser. I feel like, I could have done better with this. And this is not what people should know me for.
This is more like something that exploded beyond your control, right? Because maybe you trusted some people or expected them to do a job a certain way and they didn't. But you had no way of knowing.
There was also 2 years of the pandemic in between.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
We couldn't do anything, right? So nobody talks about that. And Barry, no matter what I say, right? I didn't know funds were being taken. I didn't know, structured funds were not being, planned and taken. People were pitted against each other. Communication, just proper communication of being with people, talking to them, bringing them into the fold. All that wasn't happening. I had to step in only when things reached, out of proportion, so to speak.
Right.
The first time I got a notice from court, I was like, what the hell is happening? And I called this investor friend of mine actually and said, sir, why do you do this? And I was only arguing with him. I wasn't trying to understand why he took that call. So when he explained to me, saying, I have not been told anything, Gautham, I have no choice, then I realized that I should have stepped in at that point.
Right.
Right? And see, no matter what, I expected a few people to take this ride with me, and meet people and figure it out and look for funds. They can't keep saying, oh, we don't have the capacity that you have. You at least are a filmmaker. You can go on to make films. What do we have? That's not done. Somewhere you had to ride the horse with me, but you didn't do that, right? Ride into the wind with me, but you didn't do that. I expected that. That is disappointing, I'm saying.
Right. So the team that you have now, are they supporting you the way you want to be supported?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I'm at the
I'm
helm
talking
of,
about the production side of things.
Yeah, I'm at the helm of affairs completely. But there is a team, a very young team that sort of completely understands and they're out there.
When you get into a movie like this, you've done action romances before. You've never done a full-fledged action film, right? How was that experience for you?
So in a 2-hour, 20-minute film, there is a 15-minute sort of a love story or like a romantic portion in this
Right.
film. And it's something I really like also writing and taking forward. It's a man in his 40s, the late 40s, or in his 40s, and a much younger girl. There's discussion about age and different generation and all that stuff, which I really liked, right? I put myself into that and I love directing that also. And both of them are really good in those parts, Ritu and Vikram. Other than that, it's a complete action film. It's a thriller in that space. It sets up. There is conversation. There is some technical stuff that we've thrown in here and there, and the action also is not over the top. Like
Yeah, you said it.
there are bikes chasing, the protagonist who's in a car, and he's shooting from outside. But the bikes don't blast or somersault and stuff. They just fall off. So I've handled it like that. And the villain sits in one place and does all his. He's not relentless behind the hero like that. There's no need to, because you don't do that, right? So I've kept all that in a very real sort of space. The problem is we've conditioned the audience to something different.
Yeah.
If you look at films like which really worked and big numbers, and the audience is really lapping it up, Jawan, Jailer, and all that, in a good way, I'm saying. But they've conditioned the audience to action like that. Right? I've not done that in this film, so I'm just hoping within one real space they will get this film.
When I visited you on the sets of Vendathanidadu, there was a foreign, like somebody from the US or UK or something like that.
Lee Whitaker was there.
Right. He was directing the action.
yeah.
And I found something very interesting, that you pretty much briefed him and then you left the directing of the action to him. You were, of course, observing what was happening, but he was kind of saying, go close and things like that for the camera. I think this is the way action is usually directed in the US, or how did you come across this thing? Because usually here it's the director who does everything.
No, so it's written. See, I design my own action. Like if you see me writing a script, if it's an action portion, you can hear me inside the room falling and getting up, and if I'm stabbing somebody or if I'm hitting somebody, if I'm blocking a punch off, I write the whole action myself. It's written in the script. The action, if you read any of my scripts, it's not just it won't just say Vikram being attacked by 3 guys and then I move to the next scene. There'll be a whole description of what that action is like in my head and in my imagination of that scene. This is presented to, and I like to present it to the stunt director. I don't want to just tell him, because they need to understand the emotion behind that fight and why that fight is there in that film. It's not just, heroes beating up 3 guys or he's being attacked. He's in a room and he's about to leave when there is a sniper shot and he hears a door open at the same time. So because the door opens and the door shouldn't open, he turns his face in slow motion, and that's the exact time a bullet whizzes past his head. This is written, it's given to him saying execute it. Right? And then I say he closes the screens and he runs to the front of the room. When 2 guys have already entered the room, immediately he picks up whatever he finds nearest to him. He picks up a bottle and smashes on that guy's head. That guy thrusts with a knife. All this is written in the action.
Right.
It's given to him and say execute it. And at the end of every shot, I will come and check the frame also. Likewise with the songs, the lyrics are written, the mood of the song is written. Every moment of the song is written, and when that's given to the composer, he's completely inspired to give you a song.
Yeah.
So I don't know if directors also choreograph the action on location, which I don't do. That is their job. Like the editors given rushes,
right.
I sit back, it's shot with an edit pattern in mind. I sit back to see, beyond that, what can you give me?
Yeah.
So beyond this, what Lee Whitaker can give me. Beyond this, what Yannick has done the entire action for this film. All this was given to him.
Where is he from?
Yannick is from Hong Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, he's French. He's based in Hong Kong. And he came as one of the assistant stunt directors on this film for the first sequence, Dhruvanatchathiram. I liked his body language and the things he was saying. So I brought him in and made him do the rest of the film also.
Right.
Of course, we had Murli ji, who works from here, coordinating with him. And you need to have that, right? He's a foreign stunt director and somebody from here. So they work well together in tandem. So the action is really smooth in the film. It's come out really well.
Right. So you're saying that all the creative decisions are yours.
Yeah.
What else they can do in terms
Exactly.
of, for example, you mentioned a bike chase, right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to write Vikram is being chased by 2 guys on a bike. Do you even go to the extent of saying he swerves to the right?
Yeah.
You say that.
Yeah, I
in
say
your
that.
script.
In my script, Vikram leans out and he shoots. He doesn't get a clear angle. So he looks in and he says, Terry, Andapakam, try and get a better angle. I'm not able to, he says.
Right.
But then the action director will come in and say, Vikram sir is very good with action. He might just say, sir, hold the gun a little closer to you, which I might not be able to. Right. He'll say, hold the gun a little closer and fire like this. Vikram, you don't need to tell him much. And then while we shoot the counters, I would have just written, they shoot at the bikes, the guy lifts the bike, so a couple of bullets hit the front of the bike, and then the bikes collapse and fall. Now it's up to the stunt director to tell me, sir, when we shoot the bike, let the bike do one big somersault and fall.
Right.
If I like that, he will execute that for me, which I'll never be able to do, right? There are people for that. The safety has to be first taken care of. While Vikram and team are running away, I know you said the door bursts open. We'll actually have a shot of the door just falling down. And these guys entering. I would have just thought the door opens like this. He made the door fall like this, which I like visually. It makes a great visual. Then I said it's a pitched battle between this side and that side. Shootout happens. I want Vikram to go like this.
Right.
So what he does, he makes one of the guys climb on top, which is extra from what I've written. I like the visual imagery. I say yes there. So there's a lot of discussion, and then I step back to ask them to execute the action for me.
Right. Now, did you miss that mixing of action and romance here?
So I have an episode which is between
You
the
told
two
me
of
that,
them.
that there is that bit, yeah. But
Yeah.
you said it's a very small bit, yeah.
It's just to sort of even establish that this man could be in love also.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
considering what he's doing, but to also let the doors of his heart open to somebody like that is actually dangerous. But he does that.
Yeah.
Now, why does he do that? We don't know at all. But he does that. Ideally, he wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
So there's even a discussion between Vikram sir and me. He says, why would he let somebody into his life? I said, sir, at this stage in his life, and especially because of what happened to him in his past, which we don't see in this film, we don't see at all, he feels he should open the doors to this woman, you know,
Yeah,
who comes in like a breath of fresh air. He says, okay, I like the way they talk and the way the conversation unfolds, we'll do it, he said. So, but in that scenario, I've not used the girl later in the film into the action.
Right.
I've not brought her in as a threat to the situation, and all that is not there. There is a moment which is taken care of easily also.
Right,
So, yeah.
right. No, one of the reasons I asked is, the plus points of your movies are the way you interweave the action and the emotion. I'm not talking just about the romance. For example, that entire portion in Enna Erindal where after Trisha dies, you just break away from that format of which could have been just a small episode saying 5 years later and she's calling him Appa or something like that. But instead you let it bloom and
Yeah.
it becomes this extraordinary journey of a man who's lost his fiancée and a girl who's lost a mother forming a kind of a family themselves. And had you not given it that time, the rest of the story would not have resonated that much, right? And that's something you do so well. So I was like, am I going to miss that in this movie?
So you might miss that.
Right.
You might miss that.
Right.
Here I've looked at it as chapters. So there is a voiceover that connects these chapters, so to speak. Like he talks about his lifestyle, like
Right.
a day in my life. Some days are about this. Some days are about that. One day is completely about music, he says. One day, and some days are about love. So these are the 4-5 chapters that you will see in the beginning of the film that establish this guy. But he's still a mystery. And like you said, there are men of mystery who are attractive in that sense, right? So you don't know. You know he's a teacher, but you've seen him, take out somebody in the previous scene. In one scene, he comes and tells this terrorist that I hate kids and I'll destroy your child. So you better tell me. In the earlier scene, you've seen him actually taking class for some kids. And so there is a little bit of a mystery about this guy, and I'm hoping people will get that.
Right. A film of yours doesn't do well, Gautham. How do you pick yourself up? That's one question. The second thing is you just mentioned voiceovers. That's something that I think over the past couple of films you got trolled a bit for.
Yeah, it did bother me because I went to town about it. I thought that's what drew Dhanush to the film itself, actually. And when that was like dissed, it really hurt badly. I don't get over a film that doesn't do well at all. Like even today, it still rankles. So the first 2-3 weeks is like really really painful. I'm maybe Ineno Ki Payam Tota, which I knew because we were getting into that. Then Dandasi Nayagal, Pachekali Muslim didn't do as we expected it to do, and I think that's it, right? Yeah, in that scenario, I'm saying. Benita didn't do the numbers that I thought it would do. And what I was getting is, Illa, we expected a very urban, sophisticated film from you, which I thought was unfair.
Yeah.
To judge somebody by their earlier work was not fair, is what I thought. So, and also, why are you expecting a certain kind of film? You go in and watch the film for the merit that the film has, right? So, all that, rankled me a bit.
Plus, I think the trailer should give you an idea of what's
Exactly.
coming. So, if
Yeah.
I mean, you do know from the trailer that this is
Yeah,
not your...
unless we cut a really bad trailer, which was not that, right?
Yeah.
Which I really thought we put that out also. So all that rankles a bit, and then initially you try and talk your way out of it, but then you realize there's no point. But otherwise, it's like even Yene Arindal, for example, I really thought it'll do, so much better than what it actually did. Or those were the numbers that were given to me, which I'm not sure if they're right also. Later, the next film that Ajit sir made had. So somebody told me, in your film, the little girl is not his daughter, but he goes all out for her and his life changes because of her. In the next film that he did, she's actually his daughter whom he's guarding from a distance. That emotion works better than this, they say. So things like that rankle you a bit.
You mean Viswasam?
Yeah, exactly.
Ah,
Yeah. So things like that rankle you a bit, but otherwise it's okay. I'm not able to, I never get over it though. I still go back to figuring out, could the writing have been better or should this have been better? And,
But how you mean you're still holding on to Nadanisi
Yeah.
Naigal and saying,
Yeah.
wow, that's like
Yeah.
a decade?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So it
Yeah.
never leaves you.
No.
But does that affect the way you approach the next project? Because does it begin to generate some kind of self-doubt in terms of, okay, that didn't work, so maybe I should try this?
So with Nadanasi, I know what I got, right? It came after Vinay Thandi and nobody expected. Again, it is a question of, oh, after Vinay Thandi, this kind of a film, and then it had some shades of whatever it had, right?
yeah.
And that didn't work. So I've not gone down that path after that. I loved, that kind of a genre of a film. And I have so many stories on the dark side, but I've not done that only because of of what Nadanasi Nayagal did. I know it opened really well and it just petered down the next day itself, right? So that path I've not tread after that because of the feedback that I got from that film. When the Tani Card, I'm not taking that up, and I want to take the challenge because I want to make more films on characters like that.
Right.
It can't be
but
always.
It did do well.
It did well, but not like what I thought it would do.
Right.
Because the producer, gave me numbers, which was okay for him. They made profits and all that stuff. But I really thought it'll sort of break through, the ceiling, but it didn't, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So when
But I want to. I have part 2 written and ready, Jayamon sir's script. And I'm not sure of making that with Simbu, but I have that story and I want to take that forward. And I want to make films on characters like that for sure. Every time I speak to Jayamon, one such character comes out.
characters like that mean
Like Muthu from a village, a rustic somebody or somebody from the rural side of things, and then his journey, his life, his ideology, and not the urban Karthik or Surya from Varanamayiram, or even though they're not really upper middle class people, but you know what I'm talking about. right?
Yeah. But do you think there is a tendency to pigeonhole people and say, like, slot them in on thing and say this person is only capable of this kind of movies? Do you think that happens?
Yeah,
in the,
a lot.
in the both in the industry and among the public?
Yeah,
It happens?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The guys who make the Vetrimaran kind of directors who only make, a certain kind of films are always lauded and appreciated because those kind of films work even otherwise, right? But people like me who make mostly these urban kind of stories are always taken on because they think we can only make those kind of stories. I was very happy when Vitri called me and said, I really like Panchatanida Kadu. It's one of your best films.
Right.
I loved the way you handled Muthu and that whole journey into him becoming a bodyguard and all that. And I thought, fair enough coming from somebody like that.
Right. This is a hypothetical question, of course, but isn't it safer to say that the public expects this from me, the industry expects this from me, so why don't I just do, because there are a million shades of love, why don't I do another Vinay Tandi Varvaya?
Oh, I want to.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
Nothing is going to hold me back from that. Generally today, if you go and tell a producer I'm making a love story, they'll say, let's have action,
Is that what it is today?
Yeah. We won't be able to sell it. I've heard people recently also telling me, big producers saying,
But wasn't there a time when Vinay Tandi was running forever in some local theatre?
it's still running.
It's
There's
still
one
that-
show and somebody called me
It's
the 7-8 days back saying they want
Chennai's
tickets.
DDLJ or something like that. He just
Somebody called me and said they want tickets over a text message. So I thought they were asking for Leo tickets. I said, no, now I think you might get tickets. Elizabeth, we want tickets for Vinay Thandi. I said, you're kidding me? What's happening? No, this particular show is full. Can you ask the theatre for tickets? So I'm saying that time was there, but today generally there's a mindset that they should be much bigger, pan-Indian films, stars from everywhere.
like that. Okay.
And action, thriller films like Vikram, Johan, Jailer, that reach to a larger audience. So a smallish love story, even with an established star, is not going to land. The star themselves don't want to be in a love story. I've pitched a particular script of mine that you've read to almost every big star actor in town who will suit that story. I don't want to bring up names, but everybody said no.
No, but I'm saying
Because it's a love story.
It's a love story, right? You mean there is nobody who says this is the man who made Vinay Tandi Varvaya and the other love stories, so even if it's not, let's just make this one movie for Tamil language. They don't want to do that. They only want to do pan India.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but that isn't that
I've
gonna.
had messages from actors saying, I'm not sure of a love story right now. And that's the only thing I'm getting pitched. I don't want to do a love story. I want to get into that action space. So if you have anything action, we can start shoot immediately. Oh,
Right.
this particular script is about an actor. So I'm not sure if an actor playing an actor will work. So I'm holding on to that idea. I'm holding on to that script. I thought I'll make it with ranked newcomers and put it out, and then some of them will know that they missed out on a good film.
Which
maybe.
is what you wanted to do once with Chennai or Marekalam.
Yeah.
I think there was only Trisha was an established
Yes.
actor. Everybody
And,
else was.
yeah, and music by Rahman sir.
And everybody else is new, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
that is
Yeah.
that a model that you can follow now?
I can do that as long as I keep the budgets tight and not really spend too much on production and make it a good film. It'll really work. Yeah.
Right. So when you're saying that, but if you need a star today, then you have to have a pan-Indian kind of setup which will work everywhere, and that means that there has to be action, predominantly action.
Yeah. Everybody wants that.
Is there a particular kind of action that they want, like larger than life action?
Yeah.
Okay.
They want larger than life action. They want to be out there. They want the audience to root for them. It has to be written for them. And இதுல எனக்கு என்ன இருக்கு? That's all they're looking at.
But isn't that what always actors look for, Gautam? It's like they look for what's in it for them, right? It's like I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but when an actor commits
The
to
most appreciated actor over the past 3-4 films is S.J. Surya. I don't think he looks for something like that.
he doesn't.
He just looks for how he can perform in that film and how quirky or how interesting that role will be.
Right.
I'm just giving
You should make
maybe
a love
bad
story
example.
with S.J. Surya in it.
Yeah, I mean, he's asking me for a love story actually. There's a film that we're talking about. So I'm saying he's the most appreciated actor considering the 2-3 films that he's done.
Yeah.
They talk only about him.
Yeah, even the Jagatara Double X.
Yeah, so they talk about him. Right? He doesn't look for something like that. He's not looking to fly in the air and take out 15 people and all that. For him, it's more about being in that space, whether he can bring that quirky performance up and stuff, right?
Right.
And he wants to do something which I don't want to talk about right now, but he wants to do a remake of a very classic Hollywood film. And he wants to play the role of the protagonist, which if we get to make, you'll be very surprised that he picked that. So
Right.
so I'm just saying, S.J. Surya is a really good option today, actually, for a yeah.
Right. So that also depends. So you're saying that the way to keep your voice is also to kind of make smaller films. Is that an option?
Yeah,
But you also want to make big films.
I want to. You get that reach, the industry does really well. Lots of money comes in for the film. The producer is really happy.
Right.
Theaters are functioning. Like we all know what Johan and Jailer did for the theaters itself, right? Like even the food in the theaters, the
Yeah.
parking, made huge money by just with that. I'm saying. So it's flourishing, right? Good economy for the business in that sense. I want to be part of that system. I want to say yes, this film did that also. But at the same time, somewhere there is an aesthetic that I'm worried about. I don't think I can make a film like that. I'm not saying those films are not, but I can't write like that. So I'm thinking I'll make a smaller film that will be content driven and people will resonate with in the theaters and they will come back or they will come to the theater in spite of there being no big known face, only with the existing 2-3 names on board and liking the film. So
Right.
that is a challenge also by itself.
So-
and that's what I'm stepping into actually once we release Dhruvanatchathiram.
Now the thing is, you're talking about pan India films, big star, big heroes. You had the chance to act opposite Vijay in Leo. Did any talk about resuming the older film come into this thing at all?
No,
We just like that chapter was just
No, not at all. I was
that's
just a supporting actor on the sets.
Right.
And there was good camaraderie and we spoke a lot, but we never spoke about the past or the future. We were only talking about the present.
right. So the thing is, so this right now, this is what you're focusing on, which is to kind of get into this slightly smaller space for a bit and then kind of then bouncing back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 22 years you've been here. What has changed the most that has made it the most difficult to be a director today?
Actors and producers buying a script, saying yes to an idea, understanding that the filmmaker has a vision, understanding that a filmmaker has a style of making a film, and to completely trust that filmmaker and come on board. That's not That's been on the wane from almost 2011-12, I think.
Right.
In
That's what's
spite of
changed.
having a sort of a filmography, in spite of having somewhere you just have to be in the right place, the right time, and there's a lightning that strikes. I think so. I don't know what works.
Right.
And for me, that's not happened. Like I've pitched to everybody big. I've not landed those films.
Right. So
Dhruvanatchathiram was pitched to Surya. It was pitched to Rajni sir. I changed it a bit, when I took it to Rajni sir, and then it came to Vikram. And I managed to make that film, but somewhere we floundered along the way, and then we managed to bring it to a finish.
Right.
There are many such ideas that have been given or exchanged or narrated, and things are not fallen into place.
right.
Somewhere, I think heroes want a certain kind of a film to be in. They think this is what works for them. They're not willing to experiment. They don't lose anything at all. Actually, they get their money and they move on. Their market is not going to. And we've seen so many examples of
Yeah.
big stars to the smaller guys. Nothing is dwindled, or somebody who's not been around for even 6-7 years suddenly can be in one big film.
Actually, one hit pretty much sustains the
Yeah.
hero for
Yeah.
5-6 years
Yeah,
or something like
it
that.
works
Yeah.
for everybody. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it from a sour grapes point of view. I'm not sitting from the outside and cribbing, or, I'm not doing that for sure. But it's never been easy in that sense.
Right.
Like I'm saying, even to convince a Simbu about who's supposed to be in my fold and I can get to do anything with him, it's not going to be easy today. Because
Right.
he's now in that space where he wants to do something pan-Indian, or he wants to reach out to a larger audience. And I feel you can never design that. Your film only will design that once you get to do that film. And then how you put that film out, right?
Are
You
you
can't
saying-
write a film like that.
Are you saying you can't, like, given that we have examples like you just mentioned, Jailer, Jawan, and all that, are you saying that we cannot design a movie to appeal to a pan India audience?
Unless you have 8 to 10 characters and you purposely cast these 7-8 actors across the country, and that is the reason why it becomes pan-Indian. If Jawan didn't have Shah Rukh, I don't know.
Yes, Jawan had Shah Rukh, but there was also this kind of a larger than life presentation of the hero, which is what really was missing in Shah Rukh's career till then. As in, like, it was more like for the first time, or maybe one of the few times that you suddenly had him presented a certain way, and that's what I keep coming back, because you mentioned the term there are no over the top stunts in this film, but that over the topness I think kind of lends itself to a pan India, because there is a certain largeness to the film. And I think that's what defines a pan India film today, which is like everything is a little bit cranked up to a certain level. So if you're making movies in a slightly realistic zone, I guess that becomes a little.
I should be worried now, right?
I don't know. See, Gautam, like you said, I think everything, you just need one example, right? See, nobody knew before this. Take Bahubali, right? Yes, that had a director that had a track record. But when you take KGF, nobody had an idea that that was going to, break open the box office like it did.
Yeah.
It just happened. That director Prashant had directed, I think, one movie before that. So it's like it's just, you don't know what works. But what really you take from that is he took classic Hindi films like Diwar and all those kinds of things and just blew it up to like this mega level. And so the core of the mother, son, all that remained, but it was presented at a mega level. I guess that's what I don't know why I'm explaining pan India to you, but that's
No,
kind
but
of, yeah.
no, I love the explanation because I don't understand that. I don't understand
Right.
that. But if that's what you're talking about, then I think we are also there. We made a mega level film only, actually.
Right.
It's got
You're,
great.
you're releasing it in
I'm releasing in Tamil, Telugu, and Hindi, hopefully.
Okay. Why not the other two languages?
No, it doesn't really, unless, no. Like Kannada and Malayalam, you're saying? No. Tamil films do really well in Kerala.
Kerala, right.
And in Karnataka, especially in Bangalore and all the multiplexes, this film will do really well there. Going by, I've shown people the film and they picked up the film right now. Like it's never done. I've never done that before.
Right.
But because people think it's an outdated sort of been in production for many years and a lot of issues and everything, I've pretty much called people, shown them the film, and we're doing our business like that.
Right. This is probably one of the odder interviews that I've done, simply because we're talking about a film that has locked a release date, but you're still kind of working towards
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
So which means that you're saying that in some territories people have picked it up.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, so all that I'm doing overseas has been picked up in most places.
Right.
Kerala and Karnataka is done. Tamil Nadu theatrical will get closer to release, right? But the investors, the people who are in court, have all been moved out, and we're in discussion with them. And money that comes from these areas and has to be given to them.
Right.
The bigger thing today is your digital, closure, right? Your film needs to stream on an OTT platform, and that's a huge revenue share by itself. And for a lot of big films, that gets done on the day you announce the film or halfway through the film. But for my film, I've been unfortunate that because they think it's mired in legal issues and there's lots of other liabilities and all that, nobody's come with a good offer as yet. So right now, I'm in the process of showing them the film 10 days before release and asking them to sort of take my film.
Right.
And that money that comes from digital will help me pay off a lot of investors.
Right.
The problem is digital platforms have a slate of films already lined up. Like if you ask one of the platforms now, they tell you that their lineup for 2024 is already done. This is what they tell you.
Line up for 2024.
Is already done. This is what they tell you. But still, they will still manage to pick up one of the films. I don't know how these deals are done. And these 3-4 guys sitting across these platforms even decide what the release dates are. Like I was told by a couple of these people who are sitting in the platforms telling me, push your release date and then we'll look at the film. The reason they give you is we already have a big film coming up. Like if my film releases November 24th, it'll stream on probably December 24th or 25th on one of the platforms, right? But they're asking me to shift the release date because they already have a film lined up for December and it's not in their budget to pick up 2-3 big size films. So these guys pretty much decide what release date also. And I'll be sunk if I push the release date. The film might become older if I push it to 3-4 months down the line.
Yeah.
So even discussions are bordered around. So you're talking about November 24th. Let's talk April 24th, then we'll get into discussion. I said, no, I can't do that. I picked up a momentum on this film. I need to put it out on November 24th.
No, and also from a personal point of view, I think the sooner you get this behind you, the better, right?
Ideally, yes.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
like it's already been this
Yeah.
thing hanging around you for ages, and
Yeah.
the sooner, whatever it is, it's just
Yeah.
you can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's always a dependency on something or the other apart from theatrical. Ideally, you make a film, you put it on the theater, and the audience there decides, what the film does and whether the film does well or not, and what money you make. And somewhere you work your budgets within an expected theatrical release. This is how films used to work from Sholay
Sure,
and
yeah.
those days and right down till the 90s. Then started this satellite dependency, right? There was money coming in from there because that market was opened up.
Right.
And then you decided that if your satellite gets sold, then whatever comes in the theater from the theaters is your bonus or your extra money or whatever. Now it's digital dependent. Like I'm getting only questions saying, have you closed your digital? Once you close digital, you come to us, then we'll do your theatrical release. So we're completely dependent on digital. That's the pre-Friday to get that number which will pay off your investors. And then you go to the theaters and whatever you make from the theaters is your, all films are designed like that. They are written on paper, cast is put in, and they are taken to a digital platform even before a frame is shot. And those guys will, depending on the value and the combination, they'll fix a value which I don't know how they fix.
Right.
So we're completely at the mercy of these 4-5, not studio heads, but people who sit there who don't even know how to pronounce our films properly. Iravan is Iravan, even after release.
It's an interesting world.
It's okay, they don't have to, I guess. They don't need to know the language to pronounce the films.
Yeah,
but,
yeah,
Yeah, but that's how it works.
but I think it's great that you announced the release date because the sooner you get past this, whatever happens, the better. Because, like you said, you have another film that at least this creative block will be gone, and you can start.
Yeah, I'm not able to write anything right now, but I have this full-bound script from earlier, and that's why I've put a lot of work on that and trying to see if I can take that forward.
Right. When you're talking about OTT, I know you made short film segments for OTT, but is the option of making a film for OTT still a piece? Does that appeal to you?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. But I don't think they're making anything like that anymore, right? Not too many.
Okay.
Pippa released directly on one of the OTT platforms, and then I
No,
think
there are
earlier-
films that are bought directly and released here.
Yeah.
But remember, sometime back, Netflix Originals was presenting some movies.
So I got a call asking if I have love stories. and that mandate keeps changing, right? Sometimes they want police procedurals and thrillers, and then suddenly they shift to some research is done, and all that. I don't want to fall into. I don't want to toe that line. It's not about research. It's not about a mandate, right? You make a film because you have a story to tell. You're passionate about that story, and you wait to see if it does well and if it connects with people. That's all. It can't be under research.
I think that's a good note to end this on. All the best for.
We've just cribbed, and people are going to hate this.
No, they're not. They're going to understand you. I actually think that this interview is going to give some people a lot of hope. I'll tell you why. Because when somebody has reputed, you just mentioned filmography, somebody like you kind of can end up like in this position for this particular film and wait for it to go before he moves on. I think a lot of people in similar situations are going to feel that they're not the only ones who, because this is a cruel business, Gautham. It's not a kind business. Business-like is what I'm trying to say. It's a very shark-like business. That's what I mean. I don't mean cruel as in people are out to stab you or something
No,
like
I
that.
know.
But
Yeah.
you know what I mean, right? It's like a. So to have survived in this for this long and kind of, I think it's good. You're nearing your release date, and it's good to get stuff out.
Yeah.
So you're calling it cribbing. I'm calling it, I don't know, maybe telling the world.
No, I had the sudden thing that maybe I cribbed a bit too much. I'm just checking with you. That's all. If you feel it's positive and hopeful, then I'm really happy to be a small part of that. Yeah.
Right, it is. It is. I think so. All the best and look forward to the film.
I hope you like the film.
Holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
New way learning through 5D.
Visit India's first underwater tunnel aquarium at BGP Meron Kingdom, Chennai.